The scout ship whispered. Dawn screamed through Earth's atmosphere like a dying star, trailing smoke and plasma fire. Inside the cramped cockpit, Valari gripped the failing controls with bloodied hands, her pale purple skin stark against the crimson spreading across her flight suit. The enemy's pulse cannons had found their mark during the skirmish above the outer colonies, and now gravity was dragging her toward an unknown world. Emergency protocols initiated, the ship's AI announced in her native tongue, its voice eerily calm as alarms shrieked around them. Crash landing imminent. The forest rushed up to meet her with violent green fury. Trees exploded around the ship as it carved a burning scar through the wilderness, metal screaming against ancient wood. When the world finally stopped spinning, Valari tasted copper and smoke, her dark curls matted with blood from a gash across her forehead. She crawled from the wreckage on unsteady legs, her training demanding movement despite her body's protests. Behind her, the ship's hull glowed cherry red, and somewhere above the canopy, the high whine of surveillance drones grew louder. They'd tracked her descent. She had minutes, maybe less. Each step sent lightning through her injured ribs as she stumbled deeper into the forest. The alien trees seemed to close around her like protective guardians, their unfamiliar scents filling her nostrils. Her vision blurred, dark spots dancing at the edges as blood loss took its toll. The drone sounds grew closer. Through a break in the trees, she glimpsed Salvation, a small wooden structure, smoke curling from its chimney. Civilization. Help. Her legs gave out as she reached the porch, consciousness fading as she collapsed against weathered wooden steps. Inside the cabin, Eli Thorne set down his coffee cup at the sound of something heavy hitting his porch. Years of military training had never left him, even in exile. He moved to the window with practiced silence, rifle in hand, and froze at the sight that greeted him. A woman lay crumpled on his steps, but not like any woman he'd ever seen. Her skin held the faintest purple hue, luminous despite the blood that stained it. Dark curls framed a face that was unmistakably alien yet heartbreakingly familiar in its pain. Above the trees, mechanical humming grew louder. Eli cursed under his breath, set aside his weapon, and stepped into the morning air. Whatever she was, wherever she'd come from, he couldn't leave a bleeding woman to die on his doorstep. Some things transcended species. The underground bunker smelled of earth and old metal, lit only by battery-powered lanterns that cast dancing shadows on the reinforced walls. Eli had carried Valari down here when the drones returned at dawn, their mechanical voices echoing through the forest in a language he couldn't understand but recognized as hostile. "They're hunting you," he said quietly, checking her freshly bandaged wounds by lamplight. She'd been unconscious for most of the first day, but now her violet eyes tracked his movements with sharp intelligence. "Yes," she replied in heavily accented English, the word careful and precise. Her voice held musical undertones that made something stir in his chest. "I am, Scout. War above sky." Over the following days, confined in the small space, they began to understand each other. Valari's quick mind absorbed English words like a sponge, while Eli found himself sharing more than he had in years of self-imposed isolation. She traced the shrapnel scars on his forearms with gentle fingers, recognizing the marks of battle without needing explanation. "You fight too," she said on the third night, not a question. "You understand." They ate canned soup by lantern light, shoulders nearly touching on the narrow bench. When exhaustion finally claimed her, she slumped against him naturally, her weight warm and solid against his side. Eli stayed motionless for hours, afraid to wake her, marveling at how right it felt to be needed again. The drones passed overhead daily, their search patterns growing more distant as days passed. During the long hours of hiding, Valari told him about her world, twin moons that painted the sky silver, cities that floated among the clouds, a war that had already consumed 3 generations. In return, he spoke of Afghanistan, of friends lost and the nightmares that had driven him to this remote corner of the world. "We are both refugees," she said one evening, her head resting on his shoulder as they listened to the mechanical humming fade into the distance. Her breath was warm against his neck, and he found himself hoping the drones would never stop searching. On the 7th day, silence settled over the forest. No mechanical sounds disturbed the natural chorus of birds and rustling leaves. They could emerge from their sanctuary, but neither moved toward the ladder. "Perhaps," Valari said softly, her fingers intertwining with his, "they have given up." Eli squeezed her hand, knowing they were talking about more than just the drones. Sunlight felt like a benediction after a week underground. They emerged to find autumn had deepened while they hid, the forest painted in shades of gold and crimson that made Valari gasp with wonder. Her wounds had healed remarkably fast, leaving only thin silver lines on her purple skin. "Your world is beautiful," she whispered, turning in a slow circle on the cabin's porch. "My home has beauty, but different. Sharper. This is." She searched for the word, gentle. Their days fell into an easy rhythm. Mornings spent maintaining the cabin, Valari learning to chop wood with surprising strength while Eli repaired the roof. Afternoons exploring the forest together, her alien perspective making him see familiar sights with new eyes. Evenings by the fire, talking until the stars emerged. She taught him words in her language, laughing when his human throat struggled with the musical syllables. He showed her how to fish in the stream behind the cabin, his hands covering hers on the rod, both of them pretending the contact was purely instructional. The tension between them built gradually, in stolen glances and accidental touches. When she handed him tools, their fingers would linger together. When he helped her over fallen logs during their walks, his hands would remain on her waist a heartbeat longer than necessary. The breaking point came 3 weeks after her crash, under a canopy of stars unlike any in her home sky. They sat on a blanket outside the cabin, sharing a bottle of whiskey Eli had been saving for no particular occasion. "I should signal my people," Valari said quietly, staring up at the constellations. "They will think me dead." "Should," Eli repeated, noting how she didn't say, "want to," or "need to." She turned to face him, violet eyes reflecting starlight. "If I call them, they will come quickly. This." She gestured between them, around them, "This ends." The kiss happened without conscious decision. One moment they were looking at each other across an impossible divide of species and circumstance, the next his lips were on hers, soft and desperate and tasting of whiskey and hope. She melted into him with a soft sound that made his heart race. Later, in his bed, they made love with the desperate tenderness of people who knew paradise couldn't last. Her skin was silk under his hands, her body responding to his touch with gasps and whispered words in her musical language. When she arched beneath him, violet eyes wide with wonder, Eli knew he was already lost. The first snow came early, dusting the forest in pristine white and providing them with a perfect excuse to spend entire days wrapped around each other in bed. Valari traced patterns on his chest with her fingertip, her touch leaving trails of fire across his skin. "In my language," she murmured against his collarbone, "there is a word for this feeling. Zephyrin. It means, finding home in another person." Their physical relationship had become a language unto itself. Every morning began with lazy exploration, learning the maps of each other's bodies with devoted attention. She would kiss each of his scars, whispering healing words in her native tongue. He would worship the alien beauty of her form, marveling at how perfectly human she felt in his arms despite the subtle differences that marked her as other. They made love everywhere, against the kitchen counter while dinner simmered forgotten, on the rug before the fire while snow fell outside, in the bathtub with steam rising around their entwined bodies. Each encounter deepened their connection beyond the physical, until Eli couldn't tell where his heartbeat ended and hers began. She taught him to read the subtle color changes in her skin that revealed her emotions, how purple deepened to lavender when she was aroused, how it brightened to near silver when she was happy. He showed her the patience and tenderness his species was capable of, proving that desire could be both fierce and gentle. One evening, as they lay tangled in sheets damp with sweat and satisfaction, Valari asked the question they'd both been avoiding. "What happens when this war ends?" Her voice was small against his chest. Eli's hand stilled in her hair. They both knew the answer. Different species, different worlds, different lives that had no intersection except for this stolen time. He pulled her closer, breathing in the alien sweet scent of her skin. "Let's not think about endings tonight," he whispered, rolling her beneath him again. She welcomed him with desperate passion, as if their bodies could forge a bond strong enough to transcend the impossible distance of space. But even as they lost themselves in each other once more, both knew they were loving on borrowed time, making memories to last whatever separation awaited them. The rescue ship descended like a falling star at dawn, its alien hull gleaming silver against the winter sky. Eli and Valari stood on the porch, his arm around her waist, both of them knowing this moment would shatter their carefully constructed world. 3 figures emerged from the craft, their purple skin marking them as Valari's kind. The leader, tall and severe with intricate braids, approached with military precision. "Scout Valari," she said in accented English, her violet eyes taking in the human male beside her subordinate. "Command believed you dead. You will return immediately, the war effort requires all available personnel." Valari straightened, falling into military posture, but her hand remained firmly clasped in Eli's. "Commander Taven, I must speak with you privately." The conversation that followed was heated, conducted in rapid-fire alien syllables that Eli couldn't follow but understood in his gut. Valari was arguing, her voice rising with each exchange. The other 2 aliens watched with growing alarm as their scout gestured toward the human and the cabin that had sheltered them both. Finally, Valari switched back to English, her words ringing clear in the cold air. "I refuse to board without him." Commander Taven's expression shifted from surprise to outrage. "Impossible. The regulations." "The regulations," Valari interrupted, her skin brightening to defiant silver, "say nothing about matters of Zephyrin. I have found my heart home, Commander. I will not abandon it for a war that has already taken too much from us all." She turned to Eli, violet eyes blazing with determination. "Come with me. Please. I know it's asking everything, leaving your world, your people. But I can't go back to a life without you in it." Eli looked at the ship, at the alien beings who could offer him wonders beyond imagination, then back at the woman who had become his entire universe. The choice was terrifyingly simple. "I've been dead for years," he said quietly, lifting her hand to press a kiss to her knuckles. "You brought me back to life. Where you go, I go." Commander Taven studied them both for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she sighed, a sound remarkably human in its resignation. "The war has claimed too many lives already," she said. "Perhaps it's time it gave something back. Board the ship, both of you. We depart in 10 minutes. As the ship lifted off, carrying them toward stars Eli had only dreamed of, Valari curled against his side in a seat designed for her kind. Through the viewports, Earth dwindled to a blue marble, beautiful and distant. "No regrets?" she asked softly. Eli kissed her forehead, breathing in her familiar scent, feeling more at home in this alien vessel than he had anywhere in years. "Only that it took a war to bring you to me." Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient dance, witnesses to a love that had chosen to bridge the impossible distance between worlds.